I was sitting alone in my empty bedroom the night before my 18th birthday. For years, my parents had promised me this day would be special. They said it would be the celebration I deserved. But as I stared at the bare walls and the suitcase hidden under my bed, I realized something that changed everything. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who see you the least. And sometimes the only way to be seen is to disappear completely. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. But before I tell you what I did, let me take you back to the beginning so you can understand why walking away was the only choice I had left. My name is Isolda, and I grew up in a two-story house in suburban Ohio. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. A nice lawn, a two-car garage neighbors who waved when they drove past. My father, Harold, worked as a manager at an insurance company. My mother, Patricia, worked part-time at a dental office. We had everything a family was supposed to have. But inside those walls, there was an invisible line that divided our family in two. On one side was me. On the other side was my younger sister, Meredith. Meredith was born 3 years after me. By the time she arrived, my parents had finally found their financial footing. They had struggled when I was young. I remember the arguments about bills, the clipping of coupons, the way my mother would count coins from a jar to buy groceries. But by the time Meredith came along, all of that was behind them. She was born into stability, into comfort, into a version of our family that had never existed when I was small. And somehow that difference shaped everything. From the time I was 10 years old, I had responsibilities. I washed dishes, I folded laundry, I cleaned my room, and then cleaned the living room, and then cleaned whatever else needed cleaning. My parents called it building character. They said it would make me a better man someday. Meredith never lifted a finger. When she left her clothes on the floor, my mother picked them up. When she refused to eat dinner, my father made her something else. When she screamed and cried to get what she wanted, they gave in every single time. My parents had a phrase they repeated like a mantra. They would say, Isolda is the responsible one. Meredith is just sensitive. I heard those words so many times that I started to believe them. I thought being responsible meant being invisible. I thought being sensitive meant being the center of the universe. Let me tell you about my 12th birthday. My parents had promised to throw me a party at the local pizza arcade. I had been dreaming about it for months. I made a list of friends to invite. I picked out the games I wanted to play. I imagined blowing out candles while everyone sang. 1 week before my birthday, Meredith announced that she wanted to go to Disney World. She had seen a commercial on television and decided she needed to go immediately. When my parents explained that we could not afford a trip right now, she threw herself on the floor and screamed for 3 hours straight. The next morning, my mother sat me down at the kitchen table. She told me that plans had changed. She said we were going to Disney World as a family and that we would celebrate my birthday another time. When I asked when that would be, she patted my hand and said soon. We went to Florida. Meredith rode every ride and ate every treat and smiled for every photograph. On my actual birthday, somewhere on the highway driving home, my father stopped at a gas station and bought me a single cupcake in a plastic container. He handed it to me in the back seat and said, "Happy birthday, son." That was my 12th birthday. Then there was my freshman year of high school. I had been learning guitar for 2 years, practicing every night in my room. I got selected to perform a solo at the school concert. It was the first time I had ever been chosen for anything. I was so proud that I told my parents about it every day for 2 weeks. The night of the concert, I was backstage warming up when I got a text from my mother. She said that Meredith had a stomachache and they needed to stay home with her. She said she was sorry. She said they would watch the video later. I walked onto that stage and played my heart out. When I looked into the audience, I saw rows of families cheering for their children. The seats I had reserved for my parents were empty. But in the back row, I saw one familiar face. My grandmother Lorraine had driven 45 minutes to be there. She held up her phone and recorded the whole thing. After the concert, she hugged me and told me I was extraordinary. My parents never watched the video. By junior year, I had stopped expecting anything. When I won the award for Best Academic Achievement, I did not even tell my parents about the ceremony. I knew they would have an excuse, but my guidance counselor called them anyway, and they said they would try to make it. The day of the ceremony, I stood backstage in my best shirt, scanning the crowd for their faces. They were not there. Later, I found out they had taken Meredith shopping for a dress she needed for a friend's party, a dress that could have been purchased any other day. I accepted my award with a smile that felt like a mask. The applause sounded hollow. I walked off the stage and did not tell anyone how much it hurt. But here is the thing that kept me going. When I was 14, my mother started talking about my 18th birthday. She said it would be different. She said it would be the celebration I deserved after everything I had done for the family. She promised a party at my favorite restaurant. She promised they would invite friends and family. She even mentioned a car, a used one, something to help me get to work and prepare for college. Every year after that, she repeated the promise. It became a tradition, almost like a ritual, and I believed her. I needed to believe her. Because if my 18th birthday was going to be special, then maybe all the invisible years had been worth something after all. 6 months before the big day, I started counting down. 2 weeks before my birthday, I asked my mother about the party. She was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. I sat down across from her and asked if she had made reservations yet. She started to answer. She said she had been looking at a few places and was thinking about that Italian restaurant I liked. But before she could finish her sentence, Meredith walked into the room. She announced loudly that she had nothing to wear and that her life was ruined. My mother immediately turned her attention to Meredith. She asked what was wrong. She listened to a 10-minute monologue about how all of Meredith's clothes were ugly and outdated and how she absolutely needed new things immediately. I sat there waiting. After 5 minutes, I cleared my throat. After another 5 minutes, I said Mom quietly. Neither of them acknowledged me. Eventually, I stood up and walked away. My mother never finished her sentence about the restaurant. 3 days later, I asked my father if he had made the reservation. He said he would take care of it. I trusted him. But when I checked with the restaurant later that week, they had no booking under our name. When I mentioned it to my father, he snapped at me. He said he had been busy at work and that I needed to stop nagging him about every little thing. I apologized. I do not know why I apologized, but I did. Then came the guest list. I had written down 15 names, friends from school, a few cousins, my grandmother. When I showed the list to my mother, she frowned. She said 15 was too many people. She said it would be expensive and complicated. She suggested keeping it small, maybe just immediate family. I reminded her that Meredith's 13th birthday party had over 30 guests. There had been a DJ and a photo booth and a custom cake shaped like a cell phone. My mother sighed and said that was different. She did not explain how. 1 week before my birthday, the storm arrived. But the storm was not rain or wind or thunder. The storm was Meredith. It started because she wanted a new iPhone. Not just any iPhone, but the latest model that had just been released. My parents told her she could have it for Christmas, which was only 2 months away. Meredith did not accept this answer. On the first day, she refused to eat dinner. She sat at the table with her arms crossed, staring at her full plate until my mother took it away. On the second day, she locked herself in her room and screamed that nobody in this family loved her. I could hear her voice through the walls, raw and ragged with manufactured despair. On the third day, she came downstairs and threw a drinking glass against the kitchen wall. It shattered into 100 pieces. My mother gasped. My father rushed to clean it up. Meredith stood there with tears streaming down her face and announced that she would run away if they did not give her what she wanted. On the fourth day, she lay on the living room floor and refused to go to school. My mother called in sick on her behalf. My father sat beside her and stroked her hair and promised they would figure something out. During all of this, I went to school. I went to my part-time job at the coffee shop. I came home and did my homework and washed the dishes and tried to stay out of the way. Nobody asked how I was doing. Nobody noticed that my birthday was 5 days away. On the fifth night, I could not sleep. I went downstairs to get a glass of water and I heard my parents talking in the kitchen. I stopped in the hallway and listened. My mother was crying softly. She said she could not take another day of this. She said Meredith was going to hurt herself if they did not give her what she wanted. My father agreed. He said they needed to buy the phone to restore peace in the house. Then my father said something that made my blood run cold. He said they did not have enough money for both the iPhone and my birthday party. He said they would have to choose. My mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Isolde is mature. He will understand. We can do something small for him later. My father agreed. He said I had always been easy. He said Meredith needed them more right now. I stood there in the dark hallway, unable to move. I had suspected many things over the years, but I had never heard it spoken so plainly. My sister's tantrum was worth more than my milestone. Her manufactured crisis was more important than 18 years of my quiet loyalty. I went back upstairs without the water. The next evening, my mother called me into the living room. She sat on the couch with her hands folded in her lap. My father stood by the window, looking out at the yard. Neither of them would meet my eyes. My mother explained that circumstances had changed. She said the party would need to be postponed. She said we would celebrate another time, maybe in a few months, when things settled down. I asked what had changed. She said my sister had been going through a hard time, and they needed to support her. She said they knew I would understand because I had always been so mature and so reasonable. I stood there waiting for someone to laugh to tell me this was a joke. From upstairs, I could hear Meredith giggling at something on her phone. The phone she did not have yet, but knew she was about to receive. My father finally turned from the window. He looked tired. He said, "We will make it up to you, son. I promise." I had heard that promise before. I had been hearing it my entire life. I said, "Okay, just one word." Then I turned and walked up the stairs to my room. I sat on my bed and looked at the calendar on my wall. My birthday was circled in red marker. I picked up a pen and drew a heavy black line through the circle until it disappeared. And in my mind, a plan began to take shape. What my parents did not know was that I had been preparing for this moment for years. Not consciously at first, but somewhere deep inside, I think I always knew this day would come. When I was 16, I started working part-time. First at the coffee shop, then delivering packages on weekends. I told my parents I wanted spending money, but that was only part of the truth. I was building something, a foundation, an escape route. Over 2 years, I saved nearly $4,000. I kept it in a separate bank account that my parents did not know about. I never touched it, not even when I wanted new clothes or video games or anything else. That money was my freedom, and I guarded it carefully. The night I heard my parents choose my sister over me, I went to my room and made a phone call. I called my Uncle Vernon, my mother's younger brother. He lived about 2 hours away and had always treated me differently than the rest of the family. He asked questions about my life. He remembered things I told him. He saw me. I told him everything. I told him about the party, about the phone, about 18 years of coming second. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, the line was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Come stay with me. You have a room here whenever you need it." Over the next 4 days, I prepared. Every night after my parents went to sleep, I packed a little more, clothes in a duffel bag, books and my laptop in a backpack, important documents like my birth certificate and social security card, which I found in my father's filing cabinet. I changed my mailing address online to Uncle Vernon's house. I researched how to transfer schools. I wrote emails to my teachers explaining that I would be finishing the semester remotely due to a family situation. Nobody noticed. My parents were too busy managing Meredith's emotions. My sister was too absorbed in her upcoming phone. I moved through the house like a ghost already halfway gone. The morning of my 18th birthday, I woke at 5 a.m. The house was dark and silent. I could hear my father snoring through the wall, a sound I had listened to my entire life. I dressed quietly. I checked my bags one final time. Then I sat at my desk and wrote a letter. I kept it short. I thanked my parents for raising me. I told them I had turned 18 and was legally an adult, now capable of making my own decisions about where to live. I said I would be safe and that they should not worry. I did not mention the party or the phone or any of the reasons I was leaving. There was no point. They already knew, even if they would never admit it. I left the letter on the kitchen table, propped against the salt shaker, where my mother would see it when she came down to make coffee. Then I walked through the house one last time. I stood in the kitchen where I had cooked hundreds of meals that nobody thanked me for. I looked at the living room where I had vacuumed and dusted and organized while my sister watched television. I paused at the bottom of the stairs and listened to the silence. I opened the front door, stepped outside, and closed it behind me as softly as I could. The walk to the bus station took 20 minutes. The morning air was cold, and my breath came out in small white clouds. I passed houses where families were still sleeping, where children were still loved equally, where birthdays still mattered. The first bus took me to the edge of the city. The second bus took me to the train station. The train carried me through 2 hours of Ohio farmland, past fields and forests and small towns I had never visited. When I stepped off the train, Uncle Vernon was waiting on the platform. He did not say anything at first. He just wrapped his arms around me and held on tight. Then he stepped back, looked me in the eye, and said, "Happy birthday, kid. Welcome home." It was the first time anyone had wished me happy birthday that day. Back at my parents' house, the morning unfolded without me. My mother woke around 9, shuffled to the kitchen, and started the coffee maker. She saw the letter but did not understand it at first. She read it twice, then ran upstairs to my room. The closet was empty, the drawers were bare, the calendar on the wall had a black mark where my birthday used to be. She screamed for my father. He came stumbling out of the bedroom, confused and half asleep. Together they read the letter again. They called my phone, but I did not answer. They called my grandmother, who said she did not know where I was. They called Uncle Vernon, who confirmed I was safe but refused to say more. My father called the police, but the officer explained there was nothing they could do. I was 18. I had left voluntarily. There was no crime. Meredith appeared at some point during all of this, annoyed that the commotion had woken her up. When she learned I was gone, she shrugged and asked what was for breakfast. In the days that followed, my family discovered something they had never realized. They discovered how much I had been doing. The dishes piled up in the sink. The laundry overflowed from the baskets. Nobody knew how to work the vacuum cleaner because nobody except me had used it in years. The refrigerator emptied and nobody thought to make a grocery list. My father missed a bill payment because I was no longer there to remind him. My mother burned dinner 3 nights in a row because she had forgotten she did not know how to cook. Meredith threw a tantrum because her school clothes were wrinkled and nobody had ironed them. The house fell into chaos. My parents argued about whose fault it was. My mother cried and said she had lost her son. My father grew quiet and distant, buried in guilt he could not name. And me, I sat in Uncle Vernon's spare bedroom reading texts I did not answer. My mother sent long messages begging me to come home. My father sent short messages asking me to call. Even Meredith sent a single line, "I miss you. Come home." I read every word, but I did not respond, not because I hated them, not because I wanted revenge. I just needed for once in my life to put myself first. The first few weeks were harder than I expected. I had dreamed about leaving for so long that I thought freedom would feel like flying. Instead, it felt like falling. I woke up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. I questioned every decision. I wondered if I was being selfish, if I was being cruel, if I was overreacting. Uncle Vernon never pushed me to talk about it. He just made breakfast every morning and asked if I wanted to help with whatever project he was working on that day. He was restoring an old motorcycle in his garage, and I spent hours handing him tools and learning the names of parts I had never known existed. He told me stories about his own life, about the time he left home at 19 after a fight with his father, about the years he spent figuring out who he was outside of his family's expectations, about the peace he found when he finally stopped trying to earn love that was never going to come. 1 week after I left, my grandmother drove 2 hours to see me. When she walked through the door, she did not say a word. She just pulled me into her arms and held me while I cried for the first time since leaving. She had brought a small cake with 2 candles shaped like the numbers 1 and 8. She lit them in Uncle Vernon's kitchen, and they sang happy birthday to me, just the 3 of us. I blew out the candles and made a wish. I wished for peace. I wished to stop feeling invisible. I wished to build a life where I mattered. Grandma Lorraine held my face in her hands and told me she was proud of me. She said it takes more courage to walk away than to stay and suffer. She said I had done the hardest thing, and now the healing could begin. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I enrolled in a new high school and finished my senior year. I found a part-time job at a bookstore where the owner let me read during slow shifts. I started playing guitar again, sitting on Uncle Vernon's porch in the evenings, letting the music fill the silence. 2 weeks after I left, the messages from my family became more desperate. My mother sent paragraphs of apology. She admitted she had made mistakes. She swore things would be different if I came back. I thought about her words for several days. Then I sent one reply: I need time. I am safe. Please respect that. 3 months later, I agreed to meet my mother at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. It was the first time I had seen her since leaving. She looked older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. She cried through most of our conversation. She said she was sorry. She said she had not realized how much she had neglected me. She said losing me had forced her to see things she had been blind to for years. I listened to everything she said. Then I told her the truth. I said I forgave her. I said I did not hold anger in my heart. But I also said I was not coming back. I had built a new life and I needed to keep building it. She did not argue. She just nodded and wiped her eyes and said she understood. After that, we established new boundaries. I saw my parents once a month at neutral locations. I never stayed overnight at the old house. Our conversations were polite but shallow, circling around the deep wounds that would take years to heal. Meredith started to change too, though slowly. Without me there to absorb our parents' frustration, she had to face consequences for the first time. She had to learn to do her own laundry, to manage her own schedule, to exist without someone else smoothing her path. The last time I saw her, she apologized. It was awkward and halting and clearly rehearsed, but it was real. I told her I appreciated it. I told her I hoped she would keep growing. Now, a year has passed. I am 19 years old. I live in a small apartment near the community college where I take classes. I work at the bookstore and save money for the future I am building with my own hands. On my 19th birthday, Uncle Vernon threw me a party. Nothing fancy, just a few friends from school, some cake, some music, but every person in that room was there because they wanted to be. Every smile was genuine. Every birthday wish came from the heart. I stood in the middle of that small gathering and felt something I had not felt in 18 years. I felt seen. I felt valued. I felt like I belonged. Sometimes I think about the family I left behind. I think about the house in Ohio and the empty chair at the dinner table. I think about my mother's tears and my father's silence and my sister's slow awakening. I do not hate them. I do not wish them harm. I simply wish them growth, the same growth that leaving forced upon me. Here is what I learned from all of this. When you sacrifice yourself in silence, people will take your sacrifice for granted. They will assume your giving is endless, your patience infinite, your needs non-existent. They will not value what costs them nothing. Walking away was not revenge. It was not punishment. It was simply the moment I decided that my own life mattered. It was the moment I stopped waiting for permission to exist. And forgiving someone does not mean returning to the way things were. Forgiveness is not a door that swings back open. It is a window that lets in light while the door stays closed. Today, I am building a life that belongs to me. I am surrounded by people who see me, who hear me, who celebrate my presence instead of taking it for granted. My parents canceled my 18th birthday. But in doing so, they gave me something they never intended. They gave me the courage to leave. They gave me the freedom to start over. They gave me the gift of knowing my own worth. And for that, in a strange way, I am grateful. So let me ask you this. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever wondered what would happen if you simply walked away? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and this community is here to listen. If this story touched you, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and if you have not already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an upload. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes the people who feel most invisible are the ones who need to know they are not alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, no matter what anyone has made you believe, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be celebrated. You deserve a life where your birthday matters. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are worth it.